mendelspod.com, advancing life science research, connecting people and ideas.
Welcome to the show. We're at the offices of Audacity in San Diego. They're a science and healthcare branding and marketing company. And we're joined by CEO Gaetan Fraikin to share some of his insights on branding and marketing for you marketing folks out there.
For over a year now, Mendelspod has been advancing the life science industry, connecting people and ideas. Partner with us by advertising here on the show. For information, go to mendelspod.com/advertise.
Thank you for having us over.
Thank you for being here today.
So you work with life science companies, helping them with their branding. What are the challenges and issues here?
Well, the challenges are that branding and even marketing are concepts that are quite abstract for a lot of scientific and very tangible thinking people. For the past couple decades, these players, whether they're instrument makers, biotools or reagents, or bio services, have been focusing on technology mostly, and that was the basis for the communication to their markets. Today things are changing. Just in this market, just like it is in most markets, they're being saturated. The level of quality of the different players is basically kind of evening out, and so the differentiators from a technical standpoint are becoming very, very slim. The bottom line of that is that there's a need for true differentiation at this point that is no longer centric on the product or centered on the product, but also on the rest of the overall brand experience. Brand is a key term. Marketing has been coming at a rescue. It's been used as a tool for differentiation. People put together nice documentation, collateral, but obviously that is the past today. So today, what do we need to do? We need to build a reason to be top of mind, and that's it. That's what branding actually does. Branding is something that is there to influence people's perception of a specific company provider. Mm-hmm. And it has not been leveraged at all by most of these players over the past, let's say, 10, 15 years. So the life science market, like many other markets today, it is suffering from a major issue as to how do you get noticed, right? There's a big problem, and that is called clutter. There is media has been fractured into multiple pieces in all directions. You see the traditional advertising, we get into social media, and of course digital. And I think a lot of brands today are lost, really don't know where to place their money, right, to try to get the best revenue return on their investment. So a lot more media outlets, a lot more marketing power, a lot more products being sold, a lot more features per product, and a lot more ads per feature. So we end up with this.
It's always a numbers thing.
Exactly. So it's exponential. So what do we do as customers of these brands? We basically have to filter things because we physically cannot. We don't have the time to look at all that information. So average, every human being here in the United States gets about 3,000 marketing messages per day. And we really process only 3% of that, which is 100. What do we do with the rest? We toss it. And we don't even know it was there. We don't remember that. And the way it's done is through our brain's natural way of filtering things. We have put in different little boxes, a box for, instrumentation, next-gen sequencing, consumables, a brand name on a piece of paper, and it's closed. When it's closed, our brain is very reluctant to letting us reopen the box, reevaluating, and eventually maybe changing it and reclosing it, because we're naturally lazy. The brain is naturally lazy. So the bottom line is, when you're in the box, you're in. If you're not, good luck. So how do you get noticed? Well, you have to be able to stand out of the clutter. And to do that, you have to have a compelling story. And typically, as we know, we all say it, but we very, very rarely, use it. Less is more, right? You see all these brands. We did a nice layout of all these homepages of all the websites of all the companies within biotools or consumables and other spaces, and then they all look the same. They're all blue. They're all loaded with content. They all carry a ton of high stock imagery. Even the largest players use extensive amounts of iStock. It's just the way they came from iStock.
You'll find the same picture on
same picture on both sides.
Yes.
And so we did a test where
someone pipetting.
You got it. You got it. And so we presented it to a lot of brands, and we said, "Hey, where's your website?" And sometimes they have a hard time finding their own website. I have a page with 20 of them, and that is the problem. If you can't figure out who you are out of that, how do you expect your market to do it for you?
So is there anything different about branding a science or technology company than like a consumer goods company?
Right. There are differences in the go-to-market strategy because we're targeting different levels of audiences, right? Doing a consumer TV advertising campaign for Nestle, for example, or for a beer company is going to be very different from what we have here. And that is the excuse that is used by a lot of players in the industry to say, we're not the same thing. We don't belong to the same space, marketing space, because we don't sell the same thing to the same people. Well, the bottom line is, from a branding standpoint, which is brand building, power, differentiation, there's no difference. Any company has a name, and that name is associated with positive, negative, and neutral associations within the mind of the market, whether they like it or not. So the brand exists. Now the question is, do you want it to be top of mind? Do you want to be exclusively the one that people come to for your products and services? Or do you not? It's really what the question is. And that's where brand science comes in to actually build that brand power, which is called brand equity with multiple levels, but we can get there a bit later.
Well, how would you define brand? I mean, there's marketing, there's advertising.
Right.
Sort of set the picture of what branding is.
Right. In a sequential process, branding is at the very, very top of the pyramid. It's intimately associated with what is called corporate strategy, corporate positioning. It is the translation of the corporate positioning. Branding, of course, applies to any level below that. Division level, product line level, business unit level, and of course, product level. Right. And that is basically what the complexity of it is, and why it is very often misunderstood. A lot of people in this industry very often tell us, when we talk about our services, they'll say, "Oh, I have a logo. Why do I need branding?" That's how bad it gets,
mm-hmm.
Right?
So, I mean, one might say, well, brand is just what happens organically, right? And especially in this field, the scientists will say, "Hey, if their product works for me on the bench, right? If it's got quality, then it's a positive for me.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many colors are in the logo."
Right. True. The difference, though, as we said earlier, that a lot of these products are very comparable today. And so as they try new products and solutions, they will see it. They're very, very good at evaluating these products and their quality. One thing is key, though, at the very beginning of everything. In any market, specifically in life sciences, if you look at the players in the different segments, there's really 2, 3, or 4 companies that make money in these spaces, and the rest are pretty much commodity. They're trying to fight on price, most of the time. And really, if you trim it down to 1 or 2 players that really make a lot of money, okay, and divide all the segments, you're going to see it's pretty much the way it is. Look at next-gen sequencing. And of course, you see Illumina. You see Life Technologies with their IM brand. Those are the 2 key players today. Look at PCR. Life, being challenged obviously by Bio-Rad today, and so there's really 1 or 2 players that truly can make money in this space. Now the question is, how do you get to that position of number 1, number 2? Mm-hmm. And branding will help influence people's perception, not dictate what they must believe from you, because as we said, it all starts with the product and really evolves around all the different aspects on a cross-functional basis across the enterprise, to deliver that experience, which has this, number 1 position in the mind of the customer, basically, versus somebody else. And that's really what we're about. What branding does, be able to position yourself in that position. If you remember, Jack Welch back in I believe in the late 80s, brought all his top execs and CEOs and said, "Look, guys, we're going to have to make some changes here. You're either going to be number 1 or 2 in your marketplace, or you're not going to be. And so from now on, you have a chance to fix the problem, or to sell the division, or to keep thriving as in case you are number 1, number 2. And he basically executed on that strategy. And he was right, because there were so many companies in the energy group that were number 3, 4, 5, 6, or 10. and we're not making money, and there's just no point doing that. So this is really what the bottom line is.
Mm-hmm. So branding has a lot to do with market position.
Absolutely.
So what's a couple brands that stand out to you in the life sciences that you think have been real successful?
Well, Illumina obviously is a brand that has been associated as being the Apple of its space. They've done a tremendous job at really leveraging consumer style communication, building a community, and really engaging their markets in a different conversation, less stale, less less technological, basically a lot more human. And that was...
What's an example of that?
Well, if you look at a recent campaign of theirs for the MySeq, you can see a technician holding the device with a smile, beautiful model, obviously, and this physical proximity between the instrument and the researcher shows the emotional connection one can have with the instrument. And that actually leverages one of the four things that we use in strategy in building a strong brand, which is emotional connection. Most people in the industry believe that there's no room for emotions. We're talking about technology, devices, reagents, and that is what it is. And obviously Illumina has understood that there's a different way about it.
So, I mean, they have a great technology. They've been a leader in next-gen sequencing. They were the first to step out there. They bought Solexa, and they say like 90% of all the bases sequenced are on Illumina equipment. So obviously the equipment did a lot of job.
Yes.
Did its job. But their marketing team, their branding team, or consultants took it further, you're saying, and added value.
Absolutely. And they thought, as you know, Jay Flatley is very is an admirer of the Apple brand, right? Since for many years now.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he was one of the first in the industry to actually standardize on the iPhone for all employees in the company. Or at least the ones that deserve to have an iPhone, a company phone. His philosophy is very much to bring a solution to market as opposed to products. So they've always been thinking in terms of hardware plus software, and to have a complete integrated set of solution to solve a problem as opposed to selling a box. And that is, the way Apple won with the iPod, iTunes strategy, and became overwhelmingly almost omnipresent in that space for many years. That is what Jay's strategy was, and obviously paid off.
So let's say a company's interested in improving their branding position. They come to you at what point?
That is a great question. Very often they'll come to us and say, we're launching in 2 months. And
launching the company or launching a product?
A product, right. Because most of the work, we do, historically, we've done a lot more corporate and division level brand positioning. Today, we're very much integrated downstream into marketing and execution.
But ideally, you would talk with the people who are doing the business strategizing.
Yes.
As high level as possible.
Right. There's a lot of work before we get to building a message and a look and feel that we know will resonate, and that's underappreciated in most cases because people wait until the last minute and they want to see results very quickly. So it is something that for a corporate brand you can count about 9 months to 12 months before launch. Talk about a division, 6 to 9 months. Talk about a product, about 6 months. And it sounds before I would say launch day, right? So it sounds awfully long for a lot of people, a lot of marketers who say, we can throw something together quickly and get to market and get some results. Yes, but how do you know that you're going to get the results you're expecting? You don't know. You're a big shooting in the dark. Let's keep in mind, 95% of product launches, not just in this industry, but in the United States, in B2B products have been failures over the past 10 years. Only
90% of
95. Only 5% actually are making profit over 5 years. So it's just incredible how unsuccessful product launches can be.
And so, but you're not involved in the discussions when they're sort of devising these products or coming up with products?
Another great question. We should be.
You should be. Ideally, you're involved in the earliest stage possible.
Absolutely, even before the product is actually finalized, because we need to do testing, we need to do concepting. Although we know that that's a whole different space, but typically when you're truly innovative, right, for a product and technology standpoint, testing that will never resonate positively. You know, so there's only so much you can test, but there are things you can do to make sure that you know, you come up with whatever solution it is, whether it's highly innovative or pretty much a copy paste of an existing product. Is a different way to bring it to market and position it. So you gotta really think it through before you get to the execution phase.
So let's say it's an ideal situation and I'm just starting a company and just working on the first product, and I come to you. What's that first conversation like?
You know, it's very standardized in the way we approach it. We've built fully integrated solutions. You know, one of them is called brand creation. We have a great logo for that. You can check it out. You know, on our site. The brand creation process is about 300 steps. It takes
300 steps.
300 steps takes you know, all those different, you know, areas of expertise, and it's very, very comprehensive. And the first step, as always, is, you know, what do you think this thing should be and stand for, you know? And it's very interesting to see that if we launch, let's say, a new division for a company, we'll interview all the board members and then the C-level people and sometimes one level below that, and then you will standardize the information as to what they believe the brand stands for, which is called the wished brand, the brand that they would like to have. And you'll see there's tremendous gaps between their opinions, and you have to reconcile that first. That's the first step. If the brand exists already, you're doing what is called a brand refresh or brand revitalization, because there's a gap between the way the brand is being expressed visually and with words and the true nature of the business. Then you're going to go to market and look at what the brand you know, perception is, which is called the true brand. Now, the delta between the two can be overwhelming as well. So you've got delta internally and then delta between internal and external, and you have to be able to reconcile all that into a new platform that will then resonate when you get to market.
By delta, you mean the change?
A difference.
A difference, okay.
Right, absolutely. You know, people internally may say we are innovative, pioneers, and visionaries, right? And then you go to market, people will say average, and inspiring, copycats, right? It could happen. We've seen that before. So how do you reconcile that? Some of that information is sometimes hard for people to read because there's an emotional aspect to it, but you have to be rational. The brand is what they say it is, not what you say it is.
So we talked about Life Tech a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Life Tech recently was presenting you talked about the Ion brand.
Right.
They were presenting the Proton
right.
at the Consumer Electronics Show, I think the last couple of years. And they told me, I don't know how true it is, that this is the first time a life science company has been presenting at the CES, so for consumers.
Right.
And that seems to be the trend, actually. As these companies, I mean, Illumina just bought Veronata, so they're getting into diagnostics.
Right.
As these companies go into the clinic and diagnostics, they're going more towards sort of a consumer product. So do you think that increasingly life science companies are going to market to the bigger audience? And what are the new issues that would come up with branding in that instance?
Mm-hmm. It's a great question, too. The answer to the first question is as they go downstream, right, from fundamental research into diagnostics with true therapeutic implications downstream from that, yes, there's definitely a need for communicating at a lower level. If you look at a brand such as Genoptics here in Carlsbad, doing molecular diagnostics, they have tests for breast cancer that basically, according to what they say about it, can truly give you a much higher level of assurance and sometimes reverse completely the opinion of other tests, right? Which is critical, as you know, from a treatment standpoint for breast cancer and ensuring the best outcome possible. If patients, according to them, knew about it, and I believe it's true, about the even existence of that test, which has been on the market for a while now, most women who have been diagnosed of breast cancer would probably demand, you know, a retest using their test to make sure that they're going to be doing the right thing before they get into chemo and all kinds of things. Your body may not react properly to it. The tumor may not react properly to it. So the point is, the answer is yes, for sure. There's no question about it. Now the challenges they're going to face is that they're going to come with their baggage of B2B, you know, technical-centric approach, without understanding that we are in a very emotional space at this point. You know, if you just learn that you have breast cancer, this is something that's life-changing, even if you're able to be cured, and years later the cancer is completely gone. It is life-changing, and it's traumatizing, and so it's a different level of type of communication where you build emotion and you leverage emotion, which is not something that has almost ever been done in the industry. That's the most important thing. And really understand, why you're in business. I think they're starting to realize more and more the bigger picture of why they're in business. It's not top line and bottom line results at this point. As you get down into diagnostics, every life is impacted by any of these tests. Every time they're being run, the answer saves or kills someone. And that's really where that's really the reality of the challenge today. And the communicating your commitment to reaching 100% accuracy, for example, in controls for molecular tests, for example, is really what's going to make a difference between your brain and somebody else's. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that's something that they do in quality control.
Yes. If you look at
what would someone like you help them with?
Right. It basically helped them communicate that reality, right? If
the assurance.
That's correct. That's right.
Quality.
And then their commitments. When you ask board members of these companies, why are you in business? What is the bigger purpose? They get stuck very often. They have the hardest time giving you anything different from financial purposes and goals. And I know they're all private or publicly traded companies, and they all have to make money to sustain themselves and grow and feed the families of the employees they have. That's great. But the bottom line is there has to be something bigger. And as you go downstream towards consumers, that's really where the difference is going to happen. If you feel like, as a consumer, I feel like your heart is into it, and everything you do all day is to save my life, I'm going to be a lot more prone to asking for your test or your solution as opposed to somebody else's.
This has been a lot of fun. Gaetan Fraikin, CEO of Audacity, a life science branding company. Thank you.
Thank you.
For over a year now, Mendelspod has been advancing the life science industry, connecting people and ideas. Partner with us by advertising here on the show. For information, go to mendelspod.com/advertise.